13th of October 2025. I had an urgency to make this some further comments about Russell Crowe and further comments about Russell Crowe, and my realization, my reassessment, which I'm so glad that I've had. I'm so glad that I did it. I don't need to mention his name any more in high regard or any regard. And I actually went to Hammers at the Anvil. It's on, I think it was on YouTube. I watched it. It was online, free. And I thought, I'm going to watch a bit of it. My goodness. Because in the Creatures of the Spotlight interviews on Triple J, back in the day, back in the 90s, he just said, I wanted to make movies with quality characters. It was in survival mode. I'd call my agent all the time and annoy my agent all the time. I kind of believe that. He said, I used to call my agent 10 times a day. I actually don't believe that for a moment. I never called my agent 10 times a day. My agent was getting a lot of work for me, or as an extra. I can go into that later. I believe that he was very annoying to his agent. Hammers over the Anvil. I started to watch it. One of those Australian movies set in the outback. It's, I suppose you could, one of those Australian movies. One of those ones that annoy me. Look, I'm a city kid. I've been to I am a city kid, but I've been to the country a lot, like Goulburn and Yass. I've been there a lot. But I digress slightly. I digress a bit. It was just not good. The characters in it annoyed me. Russell Crowe, not magnetic on film then. I'm better looking. He was just, I think I was annoyed at myself. I'm back then for saying, I'm following you. I'm going to follow this guy. And my goodness, just from the beginning, it's one of those films that I'm like, I know I'm not going to watch this all the way through. I'm going to watch it for 5 minutes just to verify how bad it is. And none of the characters in it or the actors in it were appealing to me. Russell Crowe, does he display any star power in this? No, not at all. And I was like, I think it was the first time I'd seen it. For some reason, back in like 92 or 93, I haven't got my glasses on, but I can just make out. I would have attempted to track this down in about 94, and for some reason it was not available on VHS at the time. Maybe I don't recall having ever seen this before, and if I did, it would have been once. I switched this off after I stopped watching after about, I think I made it through 20 minutes of it. The characters, because the actors became too annoying. No. Love in Limbo. I skimmed through it. When there's a movie I don't like, I'm just trying to verify something. When I skim through a movie, that's not a good thing. Love in Limbo, which I'm trying to work out must have been made before Romper Stomper. I don't think it would have been made after Romper Stomper. I watched it like 24 hours ago. Watched it. Russell Crowe plays Pipsqueak in it. He plays this English guy. Granted, I'll give him credit for being able to put on this Irish accent, English, Welsh accent. His character, interesting, yet mainly unlikable and a nerd character. Back then, for some reason, I was like, yes, he's done a good job. Now, in retrospect, it's a little pipsqueak, just a little shit, a little pipsqueak. Perth, which was set in Perth, I don't relate to Perth in any way. Maybe not too dissimilar to life in Sydney. Well, actually, yes. Sydney and Perth, two totally different things. I was born and raised in Sydney. But once again, I don't relate to Perth in any way. And Dean Young, he was on the acting scene in the 90s. Don't know what happened to him. But this in 50s culture, I'm not into 50s culture. I'm just not into 50s culture. And it was not enjoying this film. I would have watched this when I was like, I don't know, 18, 21 or something. I watched it. I remember at the time, oh, that was good. Looking back on it now, I skimmed it, certain scenes here and there, much of the way. No. And looking at Russell Crowe's body of work, just looking at Russell Crowe's body of work, look, and also the efficiency expert. I did a skim on that as well. Anthony Hopkins is a very interesting actor. Anthony Hopkins is a very interesting actor because he mentioned in an interview. He's mentioned in interviews that he said I've been down to Australia, I liked it. And now the efficiency expert, I think, was originally called Spotswood because at the very beginning of the movie, they say Spotswood. I'm like, oh, this was called Spotswood. And Russell Crowe in this plays a very unlikable character. Now, the whole thing is, of course, that it's kind of, back then, Russell Crowe was not a big name. This is only in retrospect, looking back in retrospect to get a different perspective on it. Now, Russell Crowe in this play is a pipsqueak. I can't find any other description for it. Russell Crowe plays a average, mediocre, common character. It doesn't stand out in any way. And also all the other actors in this movie, well, there's no appeal. There's no appeal to any of them. And Proof I haven't bothered with because I never liked Proof. I wasn't able to find Virtuosity, but No Way Back, which was made in 1995, No Way Back. My goodness, when I watch a movie, I want to be entertained, and for an actor to be so aggressive in getting an agent, in getting roles, and being anti-Hollywood I've walked the streets of Hollywood. I've walked a lot of the streets of Hollywood. Has Russell Crowe walked a lot of the streets of Hollywood? Has he been up Cahuenga Pass? Has Russell Crowe walked along Franklin Avenue? Has he walked along North Fuller? Has he walked from West Hollywood to Beverly Hills? I have. I have. Now, with no way back, I would have seen this. I would have seen this sometime in the early zeros, and I saw it in the early zeros, and I remember saying to myself, "Okay, I've seen it now. Never watched it again." I went back to it 2 nights ago, and a movie is supposed to be entertaining and informative, and the main actor in it is supposed to have appeal. Russell Crowe has there is no appeal in this. He is not charismatic in this. It's just it's not entertaining. It's not entertaining. It's not entertaining, and it's not engaging, and it wasn't entertaining and engaging in any way. In fact, actually, I spent roughly about 15 minutes on it, and during those 15 minutes, mainly I was thinking, oh my goodness, they're pushing his agent and his publicist would have been pushing his name, pushing him in Hollywood, and yet the choices that he made, the jobs that he did, the films, the movies that he was getting involved with were duds, and had no traction. There's just no traction there, no way back. I mean, he could have done Speed or monitored what it was that he was offered, he was offered crap, and it's really ironic. Russell Crowe being pushed as a household name, yet doing subpar work, completely subpar work, and completely subpar, and you have I've lost my thought. That's right. Okay, so when The Quick and the Dead came out, I went to see it at the cinema. Thought it was okay, very blockbuster. Thought it was okay, and the newspaper, there was a big article on it in the Sunday, and at this point I was, fully following Russell Crowe, and I look back on that with a form of regret. Big article in the Sunday Telegraph about Russell Crowe reluctantly goes for Hollywood, and it said The Quick and the Dead. Well, paraphrasing here, but big blockbuster popcorn movie where Russell Crowe's talents are wasted. Well, looking back now, he wasn't choosing good. He wasn't that interesting in the previous roles that he had done, and Russell Crowe does play a very interesting role in Romper Stomper. The Quick and The Quick and the Dead was a weird role for Russell Crowe. Why did he bother? What? Because it was a step in the door in Hollywood. A step in the door. Was it necessarily? So he gets a step in the door for that, so that the next thing he can do is No Way Back, which is dreadful. And Virtuosity. So Russell Crowe gets aggressive, gets the agent, hounds them for work, bugs them for work, and gets offered that in The Quick and the Dead, only to go on to do No Way Back, Virtuosity, Rough Magic. These mediocre things, very mediocre. And it's I'm going to mention Anthony Mansell. Now, in 1998, Seagull Sydney, SEGA, Seagull Sydney, ride operator, opening crew. Actually, we were there from 1996. Opening crew started in 1996, but Seagull didn't open to the public until about February of 97. I think it was February 97 we opened to the public. First started in 96. Opening crew, very proud of that. Fell into the job, didn't apply for it, won't go into it. Watch my brilliant Seagull Sydney documentary. The best documentary you'll ever see on Seagull Sydney. Now, Seagull Sydney, 97, I left somewhere around August of 98 because I just felt that I deserved better at that point. Anthony Mansell worked there, and he was a weird guy in the sense of he was a business guy, bit of a business guy, sort of almost like an entrepreneur, a weird entrepreneur. And so, because he reckoned that he knew Kevin Burmeister. Kevin Burmeister owned a majority of Seagull Sydney, and Kevin Burmeister would sometimes come in the park. And the Mansell pretended early on assumed the role of ride supervisor, and we used to kind of not treat him seriously in that role. And I used to butt heads with him a great deal. And he was on rail chase one day, and I was talking to him about my intentions and how I was on the acting track, and I mentioned Russell Crowe. He said, "Oh, I know Russell Crowe. We've hung out with many times." I'm like, and he said, "Yeah, we all had to go ice skating out west. We all had to go ice skating out west in Sydney for Mystery Alaska. You all had to go. You all had to go." Well, I think was that Anthony Mansell was a hanger-on, but let me just. I've had somewhat of a reassessment about Anthony in my documentary. When I talk about Seagull Sydney, I am not so kind to Anthony. And Anthony Mansell said that, because we said to him, "Right, so if you're so high up, why are you being a ride operator?" He said, "I've got to know the routes of this place. I've got to know what's it like to be a ride operator all the way up." I think that was a bit of BS, a great deal of BS, but in retrospect, actually thinking about it years later, I now understand why he did, when he did it, why he did it. He was quite capable of being higher up in the park. In fact, it's a bit funny now because he was just doing what he felt he needed to do in the moment. He was just using his initiative. He was using his initiative. In fact, he might have been a bit bored in the park, or he just looked around at things within the park at sea and thought, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. I was going to do it. In fact, I think if I were to be in a big organisation now and do exactly that, he didn't ask, he just went and did. Like, he turned up in a suit some days with plans for the park, and he'd just do them, and everyone else was like, what are you doing? I understand now. People, he spun some tales which 50% of the things he said, don't know whether to believe or not, said he hung out with Russell Crowe, and at the time I lapped that up, and in retrospect I'm like, but he was a character, Anthony Mansell, an interesting character. I was angry at him in the documentary that I made. Angry. I've let go of that now. He was just pushing his own buttons. He was quite annoying in certain respects, and I went head to head with him. I challenged him. I went head on very certain things, and so he said that he had hung out with them all. Maybe he had known Russell Crowe in passing. Maybe he had been part of his crew. Nonetheless, that so that I've never seen Mystery Alaska. Never had any interest in it at all, and I'm better looking than Russell Crowe. For such, Russell Crowe would have had to be it says he was very aggressive in getting his roles, but those roles were mediocre in mediocre films. But what it was big. He was a New Zealander, having come to Sydney, and then been aggressive in survival and in getting the things that he wanted. And his agent and publicist and TV shows at the time were like, yes, he's was not an Australian, but in Sydney and embracing Sydney culture, embracing an Australian identity in his work. And I was like, Russell Crowe trying to get into, being in Hollywood. And he was, any time that Russell Crowe talks about Hollywood, he's almost dismissive of it. I would have appreciated him much more if he just had lived in a mansion in Bel Air. I would have totally went for that. He never wanted anything to do with that, which always bothered me in a sense. I'll just regretful that I followed him head to toe for many years. I don't have to do that now. And the TV shows like Daryl Summers, and there's a couple of other the mainstream people who backed him because he was and there's many Australian actors who were already making it in Hollywood or already doing that, and he was just in all the interviews, in all the early interviews, he comes across as arrogant and very cocky, very into himself. I found that appealing now. I thought that was attractive at the time. I found that very appealing. And because over the last 2 days I've been looking at the body of work, and Russell Crowe does not have a Mad Max 2. He does not have a Mad Max Gladiator. Look, I haven't seen Gladiator in years and years. I've actually got it in my collection just over there. Gladiator, I haven't had the urge to watch it. I think I've seen it about 4 times total. It's interesting. Once again, it's like Master and Commander I have no interest in. A Beautiful Mind, Proof of Life, I've never seen it. The Insider was good. And you got American Gangster, that was good. Robin Hood was a flatliner. I've never fucking cared less about Robin Hood, in fact. I never got angry. I'm like, Robin Hood? Robin Hood? That was a flatliner for me, but to be honest, before that was a flatliner. Because I'd watch a Russell Crowe movie, watch his movie and go, oh yeah, he did a good job. And then I'd just be far more interested in everybody else's movies, like John Cusack and numerous other things. Well, at the end, Swingers and Maid. I don't know if there'll ever be a I don't know if there'll ever be a Maid, there'll ever be a sequel to Maid. If I had made it in Hollywood, if I had made it in Hollywood yesteryear, my goodness, if I had made it in Hollywood yesteryear, a lot of my interviews, I would have been mentioning Russell Crowe. I would have been mentioning him, and it would not have been good for me to have made it in Hollywood in yesteryear. Very immature. I would have done a lot of very embarrassing things. I think I don't think I would have chosen the right projects for me. Now is the right time. And I drank heavily in those days, so I think I would have been, I may have been very difficult to deal with, and cocky, and it wouldn't have been the right time for me. But at the same time, I had this anger toward Sydney, the agents in Sydney who didn't say, you're a star. Oh, you're a movie star, you're a star. And especially with my agent, Mary, so many times she could have said, we've got to make you a star, we have to make you a big star. And a bit angry about it. It's bittersweet. I'm a bit angry about I get quite angry about it, quite angry. And yet, at the same time, it's like, I wouldn't have done well because I hadn't grown up enough yet. Had not matured enough. So it's a double-edged sword. Now I'm ready now. All my short films and my feature, I haven't finished writing it yet. So Russell Crowe's body of work, a bit of a dud, not overly interesting at all. And all the early stuff, no. I mean, Romper Stomper is interesting. That's it. And at least thankful at the time that I'd watch his movies once and then just go back to what the other interesting, the movies that I found far more interesting at the time. Far more. Never into Australian movies, except the ones I'm going to be in. Australian movies annoyed me somewhat. Oh, and my friends, what did my friends think of Russell Crowe? Well, they said, oh yeah, does his job. They weren't overly into him. my friends end up saying, "There's your buddy." My buddy, they'd say, "There's your buddy," and there'd be a billboard of Russell Crowe's latest movie. "There's your buddy," and what did they think of Russell Crowe? They thought, "Oh yeah, does his job." They never raved about him in any way, and the only reason I followed him was because he was in Sydney, trying and reluctant of... I don't think he was reluctant at all. I think he just painted that picture. I think he wanted to get into Hollywood, and yet in every interview didn't speak highly of it, which never made sense to me. Hollywood is a wonderland. I only intended this video to go for 5 minutes, and I see it all in a different perspective now. A very, especially during the 90s, just these projects are not interesting at all. The early work is terrible. I loved what John Cusack was doing at the time. And Johnny Depp. And yeah. Oh, now if I had to choose between Russell Crowe and Mel Gibson, just have to choose between Russell Crowe and Mel Gibson, well, I've already got my answer to that, but it's going to be, I'm going to make another video about that. I'll make another video about that. Yeah, so Russell Crowe, his early years, not a lot of star power there, not a lot of star attraction, more attraction. Yeah. And interestingly enough was that when he was making his very early movies, he wasn't a star yet. He wasn't a star, and in fact, people probably saw him as, "Who's this little shit?" on set, "Who's this obnoxious little shit?" And yeah, it's be careful who you follow. Because when I mention Russell Crowe, people would say, "Oh, yeah, okay." I'd say, "Yeah, Russell Crowe." They'd say, "Yeah." Most people I mentioned to had met him. I'd say, "Yeah, I've met him. I've met him." Bit of a thug. Okay. Okay.